Hello, good morning, everyone, and thank you for attending the first of 3 GHY CARM open mic sessions. I'm Maria, the marketing manager at GHY, and I will be moderating this session today. So we've allocated 30 minutes every morning until Wednesday this week for open mic sessions. This session is dedicated entirely to your questions. It's an opportunity to get answers and learn about the most frequently asked questions GHY has received since the official launch of CARM. So here's how we'll manage the questions this session. First, if you'd like to ask your question live, please use the raised hand feature by navigating to the top of the Teams window to the meeting controls area and select the little hand icon. I'll call on people in the order the hands were raised. Once I call on you, please turn on your microphone and video to ask your question, then turn them off again when we've either completed answering your question or after you've asked your question and have nothing further to add. If you prefer not to speak live, that's okay. You can type your question into the Q&A discussion area, and you can access this by navigating up to the meeting controls area and clicking on the Q&A icon. So I'll alternate between live questions and those in the Q&A, making sure to address everyone in turn as best I can. So please be patient while I go through the questions, and if you have any follow-ups, feel free to use the Q&A area again, and I'll do my best to select as time allows. So after this session concludes, we'll be sending out links to access the recording of the session and some other useful resources on CARM to explore. Our speakers today are Al Dewar, GHY's Executive Vice President, and Sarah Marcotte, our CARM and Special Projects Manager. So now with that being said, let's open the floor to your questions.
Well, Sarah, why don't you kick off with a few comments of the world you're living?
Thank you, Maria. That was well put, and welcome everybody. Hopefully we together can answer most of your questions. I think that we've kind of seen an array of different questions, and I wanted to start off with just a couple main points to maybe support and help understand some of the items that we've been seeing. So we've made it through week 1. We are officially at the beginning of week 2, and overall, yes, there's been some small little hiccups as we expected, things that we're working through as they come up. However, we have seen a really good response from what we've been submitting off and what we're seeing back. We are continuing to still work in a controlled environment. So although CARM is live, we didn't just turn on the floodgates and clean up everything. We are slowly transmitting off to customs with different types of entries to ensure that all of our clients' goods are properly declared. So we're ensuring that there's nothing that is incorrectly being affected and needing attention immediately. So that controlled environment will continue until we're hoping November 1st, when it becomes the new month's pay period, and we're going to be submitting under that month.
Just to backtrack, I guess, so for all importers or traders on the line, release has not been impacted and will not be impacted based on the implementation of CARM. So all of your shipments are clearing. But where the impact may occur, and CBSA is working through some glitches, as Sarah alluded to, is in the accounting. Certain new codes have been introduced, certain codes that always existed aren't working. So what GHY is doing is we're problem solving before the final accounting is taking place on each of your entries, because we want to do it once and do it right on your behalf. And a little bit of an example of some of the glitches that we've seen last week. My particular favorite happened to be when I signed on to my own portal. I buy like 3-4 shipments a year for gifts for my wife. And again, only 3-4 times a year. And the last payment, according to my personal account, was $2.9 million. I can assure you, I didn't spend that much on my wife, nor pay that much tax, but certainly it's a dream of mine at some point in time. There are glitches within the system. CBSA is being, as Sarah alluded to, very attentive to each glitch. when that one was reported. They had corrected it within 2 days, and other types of glitches and as into calculating of security requirements, those also aren't all in sync necessarily. And Sarah's going to probably touch base on that momentarily. So that's a little bit of the background of what we're seeing, and if you're in the portal, what you would be seeing as well.
Well put, definitely. One of the main things that I think everybody has to get used to is many of you may not have even really logged into the portal other than just registering, I'm in, and great, now what do I do? And now that we're live, you're probably seeing notifications. You're probably trying to test out the portal and figure out what is going on. So there are a couple things I just wanted to make sure that you're aware of because they may be a little confusing and cause a little anxiety. And we're hoping to reduce anxiety and be here to support all of your needs. One of the main things that many importers may be seeing is that there's a little box on the right side saying past due CADs. And that is part of what we're talking about with this controlled environment that we are solely submitting these off. So these CADs are, yes, technically past due because we're still ensuring that they're properly being received by CBSA. But there is no penalty to these, and CBSA is well aware of this backlog. All brokers are kind of working through. This involves anything from October 4th at the end of the day going forward. So it will take some time for us to get those cleared up. As Al said, there are a lot of those small little glitches that we want to clear up and make sure are addressed prior to. So if you see those past due entries, don't be alarmed. We've got you covered. We're here to support you. And the second one, I believe it came out today, is some people may be seeing notification that they are not compliant with the release prior to payment program bond. So what would happen is that anybody who registered prior to the portal going live was automatically enrolled in the release prior to payment program. So you're all enrolled as long as you did that prior to. If you registered after, you just need to manually enroll, but it's a very quick process. It's an auto approval. But CBSA has recognized that although they're providing you 180 days grace period to obtain the bond, they still want to provide you a reminder that you do need that bond. So they started today submitting off a notification. So if you log into your portal and you go and you check your notifications, it should say something like financial security requirement check. And in there, it's telling you what your bond requirement should be and that you are currently non-compliant or that you have an insufficient amount posted. So that amount does not need to be posted as of today. You do have time. Currently, we can't even actually apply electronically for bonds. So although with R2 or R3 now they call it and go live, the bond is supposed to be electronic, and that hasn't yet been complete with many of the surety companies. They're still working with CBSA to build this in and have this operate. And in addition to that, anybody who is then applying for a paper bond is being advised that there is quite a delay in the approval of the paper bond. So we're still holding off on filing these bonds, and we still recommend our importers do the same. You can reach out to us if you haven't yet advised GHY how you want to address your security. Again, you have 180 days grace period. So that's a big thing to keep in mind is we're going to ensure that you've got your bond prior to those 180 days. But we need to know what you want to do. If you want us to support, we are here to support. We are sending out communication to all our clients to make sure they understand how we can, what your options are, and how to best address that.
So let's start the question responses. We see some of them popped up right now. The first question says, is it possible to get a quick walkthrough of the electronic payment through the pad? What we'll do on behalf of everybody that's on this particular webinar, we will send the steps as to how to do that. And anybody that would like a one-on-one session to be basically walking through a dummy account, we can handle that based on an individual appointment. But we do have the steps. We will share that, and we thank the requester of that question that that information is available on CBSA's website, but we will send that out to everybody's because it's a very common question. why wouldn't you want electronic payment to come right out of your account instead of having to worry about going to look as to when it is owed? We see.
I want to just
Okay.
make a point to that. So keep in mind that if you do switch to a pad,
Thank you.
ensure you tell the accounting department how you were going to be changing payments. We don't want to be telling you that you owe us a certain amount of money and then you're paying it all directly. That can get quite confusing. You're starting to get invoices and go, do I pay GHY and am I paying CBSA? So how we have you set up as a payment mode is a very important part on ensuring that you know how and what you need to pay.
Thanks for that, sir. That's a very valid comment as to how things are structured. We also see a question, is the API functionality operational? It wasn't as of Friday. That question is basically saying, can people use the API to work direct with the surety companies? It wasn't functioning as of Friday. We're anticipating it should be functioning, well, maybe by tomorrow.
So I want to point out something that I think has not been very clearly explained by CBSA as well. So there is an API functionality from a surety company to CBSA where they'll push the information off to CBSA telling them that this importer has a bond. There is also in the system, as you may have seen, there's the ability for you to submit off for a request. But if your surety company is not aware, so if you're just selecting a random surety company that's on the list, there is not going to be that communication. They need to know to ensure that that communication goes, which is why it's a lot easier to do the push from the surety company as opposed to the other way around. But I think that'll be as we work through it and understand how surety companies will see that, it'll be a little clearer. Again, at this point, it's not working to even tell you what they see or how they get recognition of your request.
And there's another question saying, signed on every day, but cannot see our entries, that's asked there. And apparently an issue has been reported that deals with that, there being some problems there. I haven't seen that problem myself. In your particular account, you may want to touch base with us offline and or open a ticket with the help desk. When I've went into financial information, then transactions, and then looked at the drop down a little bit below it, because it does appear blank at first, but the drop down a little bit below asks you to pick a specified time period. Normally, I've been able to find some transactions in that regard. So again, financial information, um, transactions, and then there's a further drop down just a little bit below. Recommend trying that, or by all means, outreach, and we'll have a one-on-one with you, or open a help desk ticket with CBSA, whatever is your preference.
Yeah, the date that he's speaking to is it's going to default for every user to current billing cycle, but you don't have anything in your portal if it's from GHY on current billing cycle unless your entries have been submitted by us for final accounting, which would be limited. So when you go into the transactional history and you either select all or past, you'll see some more information. If you're going through the declarations and list of CAD declarations, again, there wouldn't be anything there because you shouldn't have any CADs yet unless your entries have been finalized by us.
If you want to look at the top question there.
So one of the questions we see is why are we not seeing CIMA codes and value for duty codes in the CAD? CBSA removed certain coding from, well, I guess didn't remove because the CAD is new, but they took the B3 and they took a lot of the things that they felt were missing from the B3 and basically combined that when they built the CAD. There are a couple coding items that were omitted. Honestly, industry has definitely pushed back. Duty rate is not posted. GST is also not on there. So there are some issues where we find it's important for the importer to see, but it's only coming in through the back end. So the CAD was not designed with those codings. Now, if you are filing them through GHY. Our software provider did incorporate some extra coding into the CAD to try and support importers. So we do have, I believe, we were able to get duty rate, GST rate. I don't know if there was room for the the CMA code, as the CAD is very lengthy and has a lot of detail. It's a pretty cumbersome document.
Thanks, Sarah. It looks like we've got another one that just came in here. So we have two CARM CCP accounts. There is not financial security. There is not a financial security dashboard information displayed under financial security filed on one of our CCP accounts. For this account, we cannot find total security required amount and it blocks us to purchase bond.
So it could be a couple of things, and it may be one of those ones where coming and seeing us separate may be a better answer there, because it's hard to say without really seeing what is going on with the account. But if there is currently no importing on that account, that could be why. If you have an import and an export RM, that may also be why. So make sure up at the top right, there's a little drop down there and it should show you your RMs. So ensure you're on the correct RM account. CSCB has posted some issues, and one of the issues that we've seen today is some importers thought that their RM0001 was their importing account, but CBSA actually flipped it for whatever reason, and their importing account turned out to be RM0002, and they made their 0001 an exporting account. So you can't apply for a bond on your exporting account, and you can't release goods on your exporting account. So I would start there, and if not, give us a call and we can walk you through what may be going on, or see if we need to get a ticket in with CBSA.
Perfect. Thanks, Sarah. As you might see, we've got another one here. So I've posted a cash bond using the amount recommended on the account. It is only showing a partial credit available. It looks like it posted part of the cash bond to a payment due.
That's interesting. It should not have. So it does depend how you applied it. So if you're applying for a cash bond, you have to first apply that you wish to put in the cash bond and then make payment. And then you can specifically allocate that payment to that cash bond, or you can allow it to clear on its own overnight. So as long as you did the cash bond first, the clearing rules are that it is supposed to select the cash bond. Of course, I would not be surprised with glitches that it's not quite operating as it should at this time. So if you allowed it to clear overnight and it first selected a payment, then you're going to want to you're going to have to apply the remainder, and I would allocate it specifically right there and then, which you should be able to walk through the process. When you go to your cash bond, there's an area there where it says allocate credit.
So that leads to another question. How do you allocate payments on the portal?
Yeah, so it depends on what you're looking for. There's a couple different things. If you're going to be paying through the portal, and keep in mind, there is no need to pay through the portal. If you are happy with how you're paying, this doesn't mean you now have to. This means this is an option. So for some people, this may be something you want to, but if you're already set up and you pay through your online banking, or you pay your broker and your broker pays, those don't need to change unless you choose to.
So, and going to Sarah's earlier point, what GHY has done with our client base is we've basically stated, particularly in this first month of transition, leave everything status quo. And the reason for leaving things status quo is that there may be some monies that are already assigned to you through GHY. And in order to have a clean break for those people that want to choose to pay direct, we looked at this as being a transition month and shared that overview with importers. If, however, you would like to start paying direct, that's certainly, as Sarah alluded, an option, and important to connect with your account manager or the accounting department at GHY or whomever your broker might happen to be to keep them abreast of what is happening in that regard. Sorry to interrupt you,
No,
Sarah.
that's perfect, definitely. And so that kind of explains it. So if you either already planned on it, your broker knows, and you're going to move forward on paying direct, when you go into your portal and you make a payment, and like you're paying online, there's a spot there that'll either say make payment, or if you go through your transactional history, again, there's another link. They're all going to kind of bring you to this area where you can make your payment. And through there, you can post via credit card the quantity that you would like to pay. You have a limit of $4,999.99. In testing, I was able to pay that as many times as I wanted, but I do believe CBSA wants to limit it because that's based around the cost that they're paying on your behalf for paying via credit. When you've made that payment, it's up to you how you want to move forward. So there are clearing rules within the portal. In testing, they operated. Right now, it's hard to say if day one we're going to see it operate as it is. Like, it sounds like maybe there was an issue with the cash bond, possibly. So keep that in mind. But the clearing rules are that it's always going to pay oldest debt first with some specifics. Cash bond is supposed to be the number one thing it takes the money from, as long as it's the exact amount that you have requested to post. And then interest, penalties, those types of things, it's going to pay those off first. Outside of that, then it starts oldest debt, and it continues to just pay that off. And that clears overnight. So if you post today, tomorrow you should see your account clear. So if you know that the only thing you owe on your account is $500 and you post $500, it should then show as a clear balance the next day. If you want to allocate it to something specific, though, after you've posted the payment, there's a link that will ask if you want to allocate. You then select that, and then you pick whichever transaction or transactions that you do want to pay, and you specifically allocate to them. That clarifies it.
Perfect. Thank you, Sarah. Okay, so we're just gonna give the audience a couple minutes here. We're all caught up on the questions, so feel free to send us more.
Or put your hand up. Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to hear a voice.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love a live question. So while we wait for that, we had some outstanding questions from our last open mic session. So maybe I'll jump into one of those. So once the electronic application for the release prior to payment bond is transmitted and accepted, is there a letter of credit or cash deposit needed for these bonds?
That's a great question. So we have to keep in mind that there's basically two ways of obtaining a bond, right? You can have a written security agreement, which is one form of a bond, or a cash deposit on the portal. So a cash deposit is considered a bond, and then you're placing that cash deposit. So that's where your financials will tell you you need to put, say you need a $500 bond with a cash deposit, you must put the 100% of that. So you would post $500. If you go with a written security agreement through a surety company or through your broker to obtain on your behalf, in both cases, then you're not posting that amount that it's covering. You are paying an annual bond fee. And that surety company and their carrier are the ones that are technically holding that on your behalf. So there's just a coverage amount you must obtain, and you pay an annual fee, which you would, if you're dealing with, say, GHY as your broker, and we handle it on your behalf, we would then bill you out for that. And if you went directly, they would bill you directly. If you have a different means, then it would be however that client
I think,
can handle it.
you know what, that's with this whole CARM program, what it really boils down to, whether it comes down to surety, whether it comes down to transactions, whether it comes down to access things on the portal, there's choices. And it's important to understand what you'd like your choice to be and to work with your service providers as to how those choices should work overall. So with everything, there's a choice, and if we happen to be your broker, by all means, outreach to your client care manager or Sarah or our member of our executive team or accounting. We'd be happy to work with you on understanding those choices and or implementing them.
Well said. And I would say, just in case some people aren't sure, with the written bond, it's 50%. So if it's telling you you need a $10,000 bond, the coverage would be $5,000. However, I do not know if it's been fixed yet, or part of what Al had alluded to in the beginning was that there are some issues with the posting of it. So if somebody does have a $10,000 bond, but they need a 20,000, and that 10,000 is supposed to cover it, it isn't currently showing the 100%. So the system is supposed to say, oh, you applied for a $10,000 bond, but you need $20,000 in coverage and say 20,000. As of Friday, that was only showing that you've posted the 50%, and that should be rectified once CBSA clears that up.
So there's another question or comment here. I mentioned earlier there was glitches in what the portal stated was needed for a bond. If you happen to be an account of GHY's, we have a particular calculation based on transactions that we have performed on your behalf. It can only deal with that. So if you happen to be using multiple brokers, or if you use GHY as well as a courier, we wouldn't necessarily have the full visibility. But we've got a neat tool that if you call us, we can click a button and it will basically show your highest amount paid over the course of the last 12 months. That is what the surety has to be, or security has to be posted for. And as Sarah alluded to a minimum of $5,000 if you happen to be dealing with a surety company. Happy to do that calculation for you because it just takes a moment. You should be able to, though, even within the portal, do a quick eyeball as to see if you think it appears correct based on your monthly payments to CBSA, and that payment is duties and GST all in. So whatever your highest monthly payment is what they happen to be looking for. I trust, or I hope that answered the question.
Actually, that brings up a good comment that may be of value to some of you. So if you're a company that doesn't regularly import a lot, but you have 1 month, a year where maybe you're importing a large, like a vehicle or something that's going to have an extreme amount of duties and taxes that is out of the normal of what you normally apply for, or sorry, pay for, then you can apply to obtain, to be approved for a reduced bond amount. So CBSA is telling you how much that you are required to, but we can work with you to provide a reduced bond amount. And CBSA has to approve it, but it's through the portal. It's a request that you file and say, hey, and you provide examples as to why you feel that that is too high of a bond amount.
Very good. Thank you, both of
Like
you.
we got one more before we're narrowing in. Do you want to take the last one there, Sarah?
The top one here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll read it out for the audience. How do low value entries play into the importer's responsibility in the CARM environment?
So I'm not sure if I'm going to answer this correctly. I believe what the question is what your responsibility is for declaring and paying for the goods. Anything that is imported under your business number is your responsibility. So even though it may come through the low value program, if it is declared under your business number and you're the importer of record, you hold the same responsibility as you would a high value entry. I don't know if you have anything to follow.
That was excellent. Like Sarah nailed that 100%. You would expect that all imports that are done on your behalf go through your business number, because that's how you're going to have traceability, visibility, accountability, and for that matter, even the ability to work adjustments or corrections or refunds if it's under your business number. And so that doesn't matter regardless of mode of transport, regardless of high value, regardless of low value. Everybody should have everything done under their own business number, and the CLVS transactions would be be handled in the same way as really a high value transaction. There'd be a slight difference as to when the final payment has to take place, but the reporting and the transparency would be the same.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. So we did only allocate 30 minutes today, and we're at that time where we're going to mark the conclusion of the first of 3 open mic sessions today. We want to thank everyone for attending and asking such insightful questions. And special thanks to Al and Sarah for sharing their knowledge to help us better understand the recent changes brought about by CARM. So as a reminder,
and we
yeah.
owe people, and we will, everybody that's registered with, we owe them how to register for a pad, and if there's anything more there. And we will send a little bit of extra insight to what is, as of day 5, known open issues, and I guess maybe tomorrow we'll see how many of those open issues got closed off and what day 6 looks like.
Perfect. So yeah, that in addition to recording of the session and some other useful resources on CARM for you to explore. So as always, we're here to support our clients through this journey of CARM and the responsibilities as importers, of course, ensuring compliance with Canada Customs. So please reach out to us at any point. We're always here to help, and maybe we'll see you tomorrow on Wednesday. Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.